Thank you all so much for coming here, for showing up a day early for our very first ever TVREV event. I am very excited for it to have it happen. And a big thank you to MadHive for sponsoring it. You can see their logos up on the screen there. MadHive has been a big supporter of TVREV from the get-go, so we're really excited to have them on board as a sponsor for this. So, as you had probably read, this is going to be about what's going on in the fast and this whole sort of hybrid world of television that we're in now, where digital and TV and streaming and linear are all kind of coming together. And these are going to be big themes throughout the next 3 days, but the good news is you're going to hear all about them here first, so then you can answer your emails and do other stuff the rest of the time. You know, any of you read TVREV, you know that we kind of keep it light. You know, this is television, it should be fun. So without further ado, I'm going to call up Craig Berlingo, and we're going to do a little fireside chat without a fire. But here we go. So, okay, so let's start off, just sort of tell them who you are and a little bit about what MadHive does, and we'll get into some Q&A.
All right, cool. So Craig Berlingo, I'm the Chief Product Officer at MadHive. MadHive is a, there we go. MadHive is a white label video DSP. We are very, very good at hyper targeting, which has made us pretty popular in the local broadcast market. Yeah, we're growing really, really fast and have taken sort of a new approach to connected television, and yeah, we're excited to be here.
Okay, so let's start off. I mean, right now, you know, we've been, so as I led off, we're in this, this sort of weird hybrid world now, where what you have is people, no one's either like, all team streaming or all team linear. People watch a little bit of both, and it changes a lot too. Like somebody may watch a lot of linear during football season, and yeah, if you guys could all sort of indicate where there's seats over there, that would be super helpful and very kind. Anyway, so somebody may watch linear during football season, and then at the end of the football season go, oh, there's all these streaming shows I didn't watch. I need to catch up with that. And so then they're watching, so they're heavy on streaming. So presents a whole world of challenges, which is what we're going to get into. But like, let's start with measurement. Like how do you measure all that? Like, what's the, like, how do you do that?
Yeah, I mean, it's, I think it's important to recognize that linear television and connected television are very, very similar. They're delivered a little bit differently, but like I watched, for example, the NBA game last night, and other than how I got...
I hope you're not a Celtics fan.
I am not, I'm a Warriors fan.
Okay.
I lived in California for a while, so you got to be there.
Okay, yeah, because and I thought only the Nets blew it in the third quarter like that, but anyway.
But other than the way that I actually navigated to the game, everything else was the same, right? Like, I mean, as a viewer, and not a user, a viewer of television, the experience was the same whether it's coming through linear or it's coming through digital. Now, people in the room might know a little bit about, well, the commercial break or the ad pod, might have been a little bit different, or maybe you'd see the same ad a little bit too much, or there were some competitive separation. But as a viewer, I mean, like it's a very comparable thing. And so I think, as ad tech has finally come around to say, all right, TV, this is the most, valuable medium, and we've put together a lot of the pieces, we also need to figure out how do we use the words of television to say what is equivalent over there. So for example, households.
Right.
For a very long time, coming from the ad tech world, I thought household was like a shortcut of, well, you can't really tell what somebody's doing. So you just go, oh, how many households did I reach? But one of the things that I'm, humbled to understand is there's a lot of value around households. When you look at like attribution at the household level, that's very different. Families making decisions together. When you're looking at reach or, how did I get my brand message across? Household is important. So I think there's, a lot of stuff we need to do on the digital side to kind of speak a lot of that same language. And that's in connected television. Then there's, lots of other different versions of video and different ways to watch that aren't, a TV in a living room, where some of that stuff is relevant and some of it is not.
Right, well, so you guys do a lot of work with locals. So if I'm a local broadcaster, how do I figure out, these people on OTT, like first off, how do I find them, and then how do I sort of figure out, well, how many more people am I getting with that magical incremental reach word?
Yeah, I mean, and that's what we focus on is you know, we enable you know, the local broadcasters to do reach extension of what people are buying already on linear. You know, what is the equivalent of that in connected television? So, you know, it's a lot of, and you know, we've simplified to make sure that TV buyers can understand our interface. You know, like, again, you know, coming back from like, you know, the DSPs with like, you know, pages and pages of all this different optimization and targeting criteria and reporting. A lot of that stuff is sort of legacy and either not relevant in CTV or just not relevant as much anymore when you have a good algorithm and machine learning. So, so for us, what we do is we you know, try to understand what the advertiser is looking for and what they've been buying previously in local television and see what the equivalent is. So it's, you know, a lot of DMA, a lot of zip code, a lot of geo-targeting, but it's also audience. You know, when you're not necessarily looking at, or maybe you are looking at content as a proxy for audience, there are other ways in digital that you can find audience. So, you know, doing that, and then ultimately coming down to showing what your reach and frequency looks like on linear as well as digital, and pulling those things and putting them together. And one of the things that, like, you know, is a big, you know, value at MadHive is, like, if digital is better, great, advertise there. If linear is better, great, advertise there. It doesn't have to be one or the other, or everything's going to move over. It's where are things most effective, and for us, we want to make sure that you're able to make that comparison.
Right, right. Now, do you find that consumers like are aware, like, oh, I'm watching, you know, CTV, now I'm watching linear, or is it all just kind of like TV?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's all TV. You know, one of the things, like, you know, ad tech has followed around the changing way people are consuming video, right? Like, so I have a friend who's like an editor of like documentaries, and, you know, I was saying to him, I'm like, I was like, oh, there's this big movement from the, you know, the 30 minutes or the 2-hour show to like 8-minute segments and 2-minute segments and, you know, little 6-second like dances and all that sort of stuff. And I'm like, has that kind of like ruined, you know, a lot of like the experience of television? And what he said was, actually, if anything, it's kind of released us to go not only that direction when that's appropriate for the content, but to go the other direction as well. And so if you think about like a TV show that has, you know, is all released at once and you're going to binge watch it, you know, over a day or two, I mean, the quality of these shows is so amazing, the production quality, that is like a, you know, 10-hour movie, right? And so now you can tell a story over a longer period of time or a shorter period of time or whatever makes sense. And then the advertising has to make sense within that format. So, you know, connected television, yes, you're watching it on a TV, you're in a living room, there's, you know, one or more people on the couch. Like, that is very equivalent to linear. But there are other ways to consume that may make more sense. You know, like you're on your iPad, like in bed, you're, you know, looking at your phone on the train, all those sorts of things. And so there are different formats that make sense from an advertising perspective, but even just more importantly from a video consumption perspective. Yeah,
so on that, I'm curious to throw this out. So for a long time, everybody thought that, you know, and certainly Jeffrey Katzenberg thought that mobile TV was going to be a big thing, that little, you know, snippets on a train. It just, you know, it doesn't seem to have happened. Now, the excuse everybody always gives is, oh, because the price of TVs is like, you know, you can buy a TV for $200, whatever. But like, is that it, or are there other, like, you know, just from what you know, like, just so we know, Craig like helps, you know, found Telaria, which is one of the earlier ad tech. He's been doing this for a long time, so that's why I'm very curious what your thoughts are.
Yeah, and I've been in ad tech, you know, since, as my 15-year-old puts it, since the 1900s. I like to at least say the 90s, but so yeah. I mean, I think, you know, about, I don't know, 8 or 9 years ago is when I was like, okay, you know, we need to figure out. We expected all the TV money to flow to us like in '99, and it didn't. And so, you know, we've had to kind of learn how to do that. I think what we've done is we've sort of almost, not intentionally, but like deconstructed what the value of TV is. And we've, you know, have a lot of different options in the digital world that aren't necessarily on linear, that take different pieces of what's valuable and, you know, have different focuses. So, you know, connected television, very similar to linear, but then, you know, you have OTT, which is video content. Somebody's engaged, they're watching their favorite show, and you get to put your brand message in front of them. And that can happen on a train. Like that's perfectly fine, right? I mean, that's, it doesn't necessarily mean that you're sitting in a living room with snacks, which is the way I like to watch TV. That's the main difference for me, is snacks, or you can on a train. But there's also, then there's online video where it's, hey, maybe it's an 8-minute segment. I watch a lot of like chess games that people are commenting on. They're condensed, otherwise they wouldn't be 8 minutes. But a pre-roll before that, I'm still engaged, I'm excited, and I see the pre-roll, right? So there's value there, and all the way down to the outstream video where, hey, from the advertiser perspective, they're like, hey, I want to show a video. I want to, I think that's sight, sound, and motion is a better kind of advertising. Yeah. And I'm going to show that, but I can do that in an outstream. And it's not as high quality. It's not like the same experience at all, but the price point is way less. You can, it's maybe a 20th of what you might have for connected television or for linear, right? So, you can be a little bit pickier about it. So I think, as we understand, over the past couple decades, television, we've kind of had different pieces, and, it's all coming together for CTV, but we can also kind of break it up.
Right. So that sight, sound, and motion thing, that's a constant hammer. Like, do you think so for a long time, advertisers seem to forget the impact? Like, there's a real emotional connection that you get from having that sight, sound, and motion, and the fact that sort of Google and Facebook could come in with these brightly colored charts that said, no, we know what everyone who saw your ad did, and the TV people would be like, yeah, some people saw it, and then they did some stuff, and it probably worked, we guess. I'm exaggerating, of course, but it did. If you're a brand manager with a $30 million budget, it sounds like that. Do you think they're starting to sort of recognize the value of that and what that and what that is versus a banner or display ad?
Yeah, I mean, I think two pieces. I mean, one is when it's a video, it may be the entire screen and you're looking at it. It's not something that's going by on the side or something you're trying to skip over and ignore. I mean, so there's just that piece there. It's much more engaging, the quality of it. There's also a longer term relationship with the actual viewer that you get from the advertising side as well. And I think that's important. It's not, one of the things with display advertising is, somebody comes maybe from social media over to a website, tries to read an article, and then goes back. With television, I mean, one of the things that I've had to kind of relearn is that viewer relationship is the most important thing for both the supply side and for the demand side. It's you want the person to understand, from the demand side, what your brand is about over time, over 6 months, so that when they're considering something that they're going to take that into account. And then from the publisher side as well, to be able to say yeah, they love that episode, but we also want them to watch the next episode and the next season, and to go on to another show that might be similar and is recommended. So it's a fundamental just kind of looking at the whole landscape again and having the viewer be the anchor of that experience for all the stakeholders.
Right. So last question, right now, suddenly we're having all of these big SVOD players are coming into advertising. Netflix, made the announcement, and Disney and HBO and whatnot. It seems like they have a chance to, we have a chance now to maybe sort of right some of the wrongs that have been, or sort of fix some of the bad habits. If you give them one thing that you think they should be doing to kind of help standardize, help make this whole thing easier. Could be two things if you want. I'd say take your time. There's a chance to be more sophisticated about the advertising experience that you're bringing. Especially someone like Netflix is sitting on a tremendous amount of data, so and has looked at what the viewer experience is and the long-term thing. So bring that over to advertising. Don't just. I mean, I know there's going to be a lot of pressure to maximize monetization, and everybody's going to come with their 30-second ads and going, where do I stick this? That's fine, and maybe you got to kind of dip your toes in that way, but I think there's the opportunity for a much more sophisticated relationship with the viewer that includes advertising. Okay.